Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yes, it is. What is up, my friends? Welcome into it. Here we are, ready to rock and roll for a whole new week. It is a Monday. We are just a couple days away from the kickoff of October, which brings a few things to us. It brings on the trifecta of the holidays, Halloween, right around the corner at the end of the month. We are really close to that one. We are just about a month away from the off-season elections, school boards, city councils all over the nation. If you are not voting in those, the hell's wrong with you, man? Those are the ones that actually affect you more so than anything else. So there's that. And of course, tomorrow, the government shutdown is about ready to happen. Democrats holding their own. We want lots and lots and lots of more spending in a short-term 7-week funding plan, or else we will shut down the government. And it is your fault, Republicans, for not letting us have a seat at the table and screwing up the system, right? And because of that,
we're all gonna die because of you!
Yeah, so we have that conversation. We'll get to all that throughout the program and a heck of a lot more. Welcome into it. It is a Monday. I'm Andy Hoosier, broadcasting right here in the heart of the nation in Wichita, Kansas. But we are all over the country. So many great radio affiliates doing our thing.
Do it live!
Like we do every single day here on this show. Before we get into the politics, I want to give you a programming update. Kind of a programming update on social media. I want to apologize profusely to you that if you have seen some shenanigans on there, bear with me. We have been hacked on our Facebook page, and I have been doing everything in my power to continue to hold control of the Facebook page. And when I mean Facebook page, I mean the personal page of mine, but also because now the way Facebook has it is that all of the pages that you monitor as well, that you control as well, which to me is my Voice of Reason radio show page. It is the 10 different pages of all the stations that I oversee here in Kansas with the company that I work for. It is my page for my race for my city council seat. It is my ECOS, my Electoral College of the State's Facebook page. It is everything that I oversee. All of that controlled by my personal profile, and my personal profile hacked this morning. I woke up today at about 6:30, I guess I woke up way before that, but I checked my Facebook and my email at about 6 o'clock this morning, and I had 400 emails in there from people that were trying to get into my Facebook page, and because I wasn't there to say, no, that was not me, it apparently let them in. They added their email to my profile account, and they blocked me out. And all day today, and when I mean all day, I mean literally up until about an hour ago before I started getting in the air, it has been a battle because I would get in there, I would recover my account. Thank God I had my cell phone attached to it, but I would recover my account. I would change my password. I would boot them off of there. And somehow, I do not know how, somehow they would still find a way to get their email back into the account, change the password again, and lock me out. And I have had... Then what they would do, I would try to reset the password. They would have a Google Authenticator on their end where they would get the codes. They somehow were able to add their email. So when I would send a code to reset the password, it would go to them as the priority email and not to me. I have been very close a couple of times today of not being able to get into my account. And it also was trying to sell a bunch of fake products. So if you tried to reach out personally, I saw at least 30 to 40 private comments of people saying, hey, is that thing still for sale? No, it is not. Do not try to buy anything unless I specifically say this is a really cool idea. I really want to get rid of this. I will not sell stuff on Facebook. In fact, I'm never sell things on Facebook. Mrs. Voice of Reason will sometimes post things on the Facebook Marketplace, but that's about it. I have never, that I can recall, ever sold anything on Facebook. So if you see any of that, then it is not real. It is not me. And do not try to send me a private message wanting to buy a truck for like $5,000. That is not the case. It is not legitimate. And we got to think things through before we realize, gee, I wonder if that's really for sale. I know that I'm a reputable kind of guy, which is why it burns me up so much that when this came out and I got so many comments, people trusted that it was me. And I feel horrible for that. So I apologize profusely. I am working on ways to ensure this does not happen again. I submitted my photo ID to Meta, the owner of Facebook, and I think it takes like 48 hours to process. I think I'm just going to get the blue check mark and get the Meta verified, which is like, I don't know, 12 or 15 bucks a month. I swore to myself I would never pay for social media because that's really, really stupid. I never wanted to pay for social media, but if I do that, maybe that'll help secure it a little bit more. Now that the show continues to grow, we've been gaining more followers. We broke over, 4,000 followers on the personal page. I don't know what we're at on the show page, but I apologize to you. Give you a heads up. As of this moment, when we're doing this program, I have full control of my profile page again. I don't know how long that will last. I don't know if they will try it again. I do not think they made any money off my page, so maybe they just moved on and gave up. But the fact that they continued to be able to override my password resets and add themselves to my account is a little weird. I'm also going to be, just an FYI, submitting some information to the Kansas Bureau of Investigations because they also they disabled a couple of my pages, which is weird. They disabled them, but then they activated a new page that I'm not able to get rid of, and it is not of the best content, we'll put it that way, and I don't know how they did that, and it will not let me delete it. So we will be submitting information to the Kansas Bureau of Investigations. So if I'm not on the air one day, then you'll know why we're battling some of this garbage. But it has been a mess all day. I am frustrated beyond belief, and I will try to not take it out on the social or on the radio here. At the same time, it is a bit of a healthy therapy session for us on the program, right? So we will do our best. Welcome into the show. Not to bore you with a lot of personal issues, but I just wanted to warn you, if you are friends with us on social media, if you see something weird, know that it's weird. I post some weird stuff sometimes, but I will never try to sell you anything unless I specifically say, hey, this is, really me, and I'll find some way to give you a secret code if I'm actually doing that. But I will not sell you a brand new truck for $5,000. Just throwing it out there. If I had a brand new truck, I would not be selling it right now. So that's just a word to the wise. All right, bottom of the hour, we have Joe Wolverton on the program. He is a constitutional law scholar at the John Birch Society. We're going to chat about federalism, and as we're seeing a move right now, bringing power back down to the states and the state sovereignty, which I think is very good news. So we're going to have that conversation in just a little bit. There is some big news going on today, though. We had a big weekend incident, another shooting in Michigan at a church, a Mormon church, an individual driving his vehicle into the church, burning it to the ground, taking shots, injuring and shooting 10 people before, I don't know who it was, ended up shooting him and taking him down. There is a lot of politics behind that one and what the latest scoop is there, but there is some breaking news going on today.
What's trending today?
That's getting a lot of push and pushback from this, but apparently, could we potentially have some more peace in the Middle East? And I'm going to tell you, if Donald Trump's able to pull this off, it will be the biggest notch in his belt, I think, on foreign policy yet. I don't know whether it's going to happen or not, because last time we said we could potentially have a peace agreement between Hamas and the Israeli government. It kind of fell through. Hamas didn't really want to agree to it, but this time maybe they apparently have shown some interest in making this happen.
If accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. So the hostages are coming back, and I hate even saying this from the standpoint, doesn't sound right, but it is so important to the parents. The bodies of the young men, I believe in almost all cases, the young men are coming back immediately. I met with parents. The parents felt as strongly about getting the body of their dead boy back as they did as though the boy were alive and well. It's so important to them. And it means the immediate end to the war itself, not just Gaza. It's the war itself. Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it. The people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it. To demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too, and that's a good thing.
All right, so that's Donald Trump earlier today. That was a statement made from the White House with, by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, who was at the White House earlier today with this statement. So apparently it's a 20-point plan to secure peace in Gaza, including granting some of the Hamas members amnesty. Now, according to the plan, they say that it's going to start off with just trying to end some of the bloodshed. The plan includes, according to Fox News, granting Hamas terrorists who give up their arms in favor of peace, quote, amnesty. That's where I have a red flag, and I don't know whether this is going to happen or not, because they are losing. Israel has openly said, we're going to come in and destroy you. You attacked us. We're going to just completely wipe you out, meaning the Hamas government. That does not mean the Palestinian people. So everybody from the river to the sea, and it's a genocide going on. That is not true, and you need to stop that rhetoric again. I've never understood this anti-Semitism that we're seeing right now. It's very strange. I don't understand that. No, it is not a genocide. If people are dying from the general populace, it's because Hamas has openly admitted they use the people, their own citizens, as shields when they build their bunkers and they build everything in the hospitals, underneath the hospital grounds, in the general populace to where they can hide, because they know that we actually value human life and they do not, and they use that to their advantage and to our disadvantage. So, but they're losing. And I will give credit to Israel for the great tactics they've used so far with like the beeper scandal, where the beepers blew up and the cell phones blowing up, and with the other stuff that they've been able to do, take out much of the Hamas leaders. They know that they're losing. They know that they're on the way down, and they really, really tried hard for a publicity stunt, for a PR campaign to get people to side with them and to turn against Israel. And it started to work. It really did. Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu spoke last week at the United Nations, and there were a lot of world leaders that turned around and walked out of that door. And right now, unfortunately, we're even seeing within the conservative and Republican and the quote-unquote MAGA movement here in the United States, many of them turning away from Benjamin Netanyahu and the nation of Israel, too. And there's a split within the MAGA movement that could be, unfortunately, the Achilles heel to tear apart the MAGA and the Republican Party, which I don't understand. We're supporters of Israel. We support, okay, don't like Benjamin Netanyahu, that's fine. He's protecting his nation. I don't think that many people understand the war that goes on in the Middle East with missiles being shot hourly at Israel, that they have to have this shield, this defense mechanism that they have to keep these missiles from not blowing up their entire populace. It's very strange that we're taking the side of these terrorists who call for the death of Israel and the death of the United States, and we're saying, oh, yeah, Israel's just gone too far. They're committing a genocide. They're not committing a genocide. And it's kind of weird that we're starting to believe this kind of rhetoric. But if there are some that say, hey, we're losing, I don't want to die any longer, could we give them amnesty? Sure, I guess that's an idea. If they turn over their arms and they end up giving us information to, quote, de-radicalize the terror-free zone and developed areas so that they no longer pose a threat to their neighbors around the area. The plan explains that within 72 hours of Israel accepting the agreement, which I guess they're going to be doing, the country will release the remaining hostages in captivity, whether they're dead or alive. And upon release, the remaining hostages, Israel will then release 250 life-sentence prisoners, along with 1,700 Gazans who are detained after the October 7th attack. So this is moving. I don't know whether it's going to happen or not. I am very skeptical because Hamas had talked about wanting peace before, and then they rejected it, mostly because it would acknowledge the fact that there is a nation of Israel that they do not want to acknowledge, with most of the Muslim Brotherhood countries around that area that do not want to acknowledge the state of Israel as a legitimate place. So we'll see whether this moves forward or not. I'm hoping. We can always pray that we can see some peace in the Middle East and actually have a conclusion to this. That way the rhetoric can stop and things can begin to calm down. But we'll see whether that happens or not. We'll continue this when we come back. Also, we have some updates on the shooting that happened in Michigan and how we can just slow down a little bit and put this stuff into perspective for just a moment. It's a Monday for The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. When reason meets radio. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
If the international body succeeds, we will have permanently ended the war. Israel will conduct further withdrawals linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization, but will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future. I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed.
All right, so that was Benjamin Netanyahu with this statement today in the White House. I love this, and I think that I really, 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 really hope that we can see this come through, and we can see this come to fruition with Hamas agreeing to this now. I'm assuming, I don't know the details of the plan, this 20-step plan. I'm wondering if this is an admittance that Israel has a right to be on that land and recognize them as a nation, because if that's the case, then it's a dead deal. I mean, Hamas and these terrorist organizations are not going to, because they see the chant that we've heard from college students around the country here is from the river to the sea, and that Israel should never be no more because we hate the Jewish population, which I just don't understand at all. I just don't understand that mindset. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but that's where we're at today. And for Israel to say, hey, we were just going to go in and wipe these guys out. We're done with this game. We're done playing with this. We're done having a threat on our border every single day. We're going to go in and just wipe it out. We're going to take over Gaza again. And it got a lot of pushback from around the world. It even got a lot of pushback from Donald Trump and said, yeah, maybe that's not the best policy. Just that maybe the PR stunt did work for Hamas. And it prevented that from happening. So the plan with Donald Trump, again, America, stepping in, being the adult in the situation, saying, fine, this shouldn't have to be our conflict, but I guess it is going to be our conflict. We're going to create a peace deal. Lay down your arms, help us, stop the conflict, and then we will give you amnesty. If not, Donald Trump has said, if Hamas disagrees with this, then it's going to be full-on force. Do what you need to do, Israel, and we support you because we're done with this kind of garbage. But if we're able to create this peace, that would be what, number 7, number 8, number 9 for Donald Trump to create peace and lasting peace and a ceasefire, especially in the Middle East. That's a win right there. Totally okay with that. I'm just curious about the Hamas people and the Palestinians. At what point do they get their message out? And I know that there is a media bias against Israel, and they don't get a whole lot of the same information. But when the Palestinian people are being used as puppets, essentially, from Hamas, which they voted in, then when do they wake up and realize, like, hey, maybe we should do something a little bit different? I am thinking about the nation of Iran, when the people now are saying maybe this is the time for us to overthrow our government and stop this radicalization that we've seen, because we don't want to see a radicalized government any longer. We don't have an issue with the Israeli people, and our government needs to stop doing what they did to Israel. And luckily, that ceasefire is holding up, right? So that's a big win. We can lump that one again under Donald Trump because of attacking their nuclear site. While everybody tried to downplay that, it's obviously working because we haven't seen any kind of conflict with Iran and Israel since the bombing of their nuclear site. So the media lied to us then. What have the media been lying to us about here for this situation? I really hope, regardless of political affiliation, that we can have some type of peace agreement. That being said, I want to...
What's trending today?
We talk about hate. We talk about this ridiculousness in the world. Obviously, the shooting that happened over the weekend, this individual driving a truck into a church, shooting 10 people, burning the church down, which is unfortunate, apparently had an extreme bias against the Mormon population, according to Caroline Levitt, that was on Fox News today.
From what I understand, based on my conversations with the FBI director, all they know right now is this was an individual who hated people of the Mormon faith. And they are trying to understand more about this, how premeditated it was, how much planning went into it, whether he left a note. All of those questions have yet to be answered, but certainly will be answered by the FBI.
Some sick human beings, man. Tell you what, why did you want to go after someone while they're practicing their faith? I don't know, a hatred against the Mormons. Even if you don't like the Mormon church, the hell do you have wrong with the people that are there? I've known a lot of Mormons. They're like the happiest people on the face of the earth. They are never in a bad mood. So I don't know what pushed him over the edge, but golly, some serious mental health issues going on in the world right now.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Truth, reason, and common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Senator, let me ask you, look, we know that there's been real extremists who have tried to hijack the Democrat Party and whether it's policy or the way they talk. And look, you've seen it on the right in some cases as well, all the way. But I mean, on the left, you've got such extremes. Would you consider switching parties?
No, I'm not going to switch, but I'm just going to be an independent voice in the Democratic Party. I'm not going to be afraid if people, and if there are groups attacking a Democrat, the last one in Pennsylvania, then to me, that's part of the problem, in our party. And if you want a Democrat that's going to call people Nazis or fascists or all these kinds of things, well, I'm not going to be that guy. Independent thinking and views wherever that I happen to believe the truth, regardless if it's the Republican or the Democratic voice, what I think is the truth in this. Now, in this truth right now, it's firmly on Israel through this. And it's always wrong to shut our government down. And that's where my voice is. And if that puts me as an outlier, and that's where I am.
Wow. So again, man, I never thought that John Fetterman would be the voice of reason, voice of common sense on the other side of the aisle. And I'm glad. I'm honestly really happy that he is choosing to stay with the Democrat Party, because they need it, even if it's only one voice within the Democrat side, for one guy to be like, I'm going to be the moderate voice here, and I'm not going to call Republicans Nazis and fascists and everything else. And yeah, I'm not going to try and shut down the government, because that's really stupid with our demands with 5 Democrats that could actually change this. Be like, yeah, no, we're going to shut it down because I want lots of money spent. Like, that's a ridiculous stance for them to take. So the fact that there is even one singular voice of semi-common sense, number one, I never thought it would be from someone like John Fetterman. Number two, they need that. So I'm kind of glad that he's not switching parties. And you know what? Keep on fighting that fight in the Democrat ranks, which I know is very, very difficult. By the way, real quickly, as we wrap up the conversation about the shooting from Michigan, there's no really more information that we can tell right now. We're still speculating on motive, other than, according to Caroline Leavitt, that it was motivated not based on politics, because if you look at the headlines from Drudge and some of the other mainstream media sites, they're trying to blame him as, well, he was a Trump supporter back in 2019, so therefore it's a Republican. I don't know how that matters, because it wasn't politically motivated. It was supposedly religiously motivated, which is really strange. But it's always just devastating to see these things. The fact that we have a deeper rooted problem in society we have to figure out how to address. I was already in kind of a funk this weekend. I always get that way around this time of year. This weekend was our 19-year tribute memorial of the school shooting that I was involved in 19 years ago this weekend, and that was already hard enough. And then to hear something like this with 10 people shot, including elderly, including children, it's just absolutely devastating across the board. All right, let's get into
what's trending today.
What can we do about it? Because every time this happens, what's the first response? Government! Do something. And the battle about gun control, the battle about more regulation, the battle about the more weaponization of the federal government, the battle of over control and industry and taxes and regulation and everything of the sorts. Is that the direction we have to go when we're on the brink? And I think maybe speculating this is why we're seeing this outburst and this reaction, is because we are on the brink of really getting this country maybe sort of kind of back on track the way it's supposed to be. And that's where we go to with our next guest. He is a constitutional law scholar at the Birch Society. Really happy to have on here the man himself, Mr. Joe Wolverton. Joe, how are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing so good. How are you doing today?
More fun than we should be. I appreciate you jumping on here. I'm so optimistic about the direction we're going, even though there's a lot of really craziness in the world. There's a lot of negativity in the world. I'm also optimistic because this is almost like boiling of the evil badness up to the surface so we can purge ourselves from it and actually move in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. I've made that analogy myself. You say that this is, we are this, if you talk about this melting pot, right? And you talk about all these metals being put together and heated. The heat, actually, although it is obviously painful at times, that heat is causing the impurities to sort of self-identify. So we can do, as you say, and just remove them en masse, leaving behind the pure metal, the metal that isn't infected by all of these impurities. And I think that's where we're at right now. We're at that point where we're getting to the place where those people who are determined to shoehorn everything into a political question, those people are being marginalized because more of us are seeing every day that there's something transcending politics, and we're really tired of being pawns in someone's game. And as we realize that this is going on, we're sort of stepping back and helping others see what's going on. And yeah, you're exactly right. This is this process right before we get where we want to be, but it is a little painful for sure.
Yeah, it is a tough process, but it's going to be so worth it in the end. So here's the question. Do you think that we can get to what we're striving for, that purity in the metals? Can we really get to what we're supposed to be as a nation? Can we get back to the foundational principles of this nation? Can we get back to the constitutional structures of this nation? Can we get it back to where it needs to be? Or is that kind of hopeful dreaming and we just have to make the best of it as what we can?
No, sir, we definitely most certainly can do it. I'm very optimistic about that. I think the only sure way to do it is the way that historically has been proven. And we have several people, several thinkers, philosophers that the founding fathers looked up to that commented throughout the centuries that you've got to get the youth and you've got to teach them correct principles. I mean, someone like Machiavelli said, if you could get a generation of young men, and he, of course, in his day, the young women weren't educated in this way, but if you could get a generation of young people who were, when the country was moving away from its foundational principles, that those young people could be taught the correct principles, and those young people, when they reached an age of adulthood, they could bring the country back to its foundational principles. And he said, the quote he has is, that republic would be immortal. And so I think what we have to do, if we have any hope, and I do believe we have hope, we have to take back responsibility for the training of our children. We can't outsource the education of our children to strangers. Yeah. We must be responsible for teaching them the principles upon which this country was founded, the principles upon which Western civilization was founded. And if we do that, then this republic can be immortal.
It's a really great point. I love that you mentioned that. We have been playing it a couple of times on this program, the latest study that showed after the assassination of Charlie Kirk that the overwhelming majority of people that were making posts on social media that were praising the assassination, that were celebrating the assassination and advocating for more assassinations of people on the other side of the aisle, overwhelmingly the people that were making those posts on social media are teachers, people in the education system that are brainwashing our children. And Joe, to me, that is probably one of the most disturbing facts that I found out over the last week or so.
Yeah, there's no escaping that. And the problem is this. The problem I have with this is I have a friend, and he has kids that are still in school, and he'll say, and I'll say to him, man, how can you do that? How can you drop your, because he'll complain, oh, we're having this at the school, and I can't believe they're doing this at the school. And I said, well, why do you keep taking your kid back there? And he's like, well, you got to have an education. And he says, well, I deprogram them when they come home. And he doesn't, right? When the kid comes home, it's throw the backpack down, go to the bedroom until dinner time, half an hour for dinner, and then back up to the bedroom. And you don't deprogram them. Yeah. And so I'm like, the only way we can do this is we've got to quit doing this. We've got to quit complaining and shaking our fist at the heaven about all these things that are going wrong in the schools, but then the next morning we're dropping them off at that same place. You cannot. I mean, that's the definition of insanity, isn't it?
Yeah, that really is, for sure. Let's take it a step further. There was a comment made by Senator Tim Kaine just a week or two ago about where rights come from that actually lost their minds on this one. Listen to this.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
Whoa. I mean, Joe, I knew that these people are crazy, but the fact that they openly admitted that's wild to me.
Well, we live in a time where a senator, a United States senator, can sit there and say that and not be run out of that town on a rail.
Yeah.
Right. There was a time that would have got his head wrapped by some other senator who was walking with a cane that day. And today it's not even that. The substance of what he said is so wrong and so illogical. he says that the notion that rights come from God is why Muslim extremists act the way they do towards Christians.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. It's because the content of some of their scriptural commentary tells them to do that. It has nothing to do with where they think natural rights come from. Don't even use the phrase natural rights if you think those rights are manufactured in a document and thought up by some person. That's the opposite of natural. That's manufactured. And so you can, if Tim Kaine wants to believe, it's so ridiculous. And I'm sitting here thinking, what's his background that he can say our rights come from these documents that we call laws, and because of that, we're just like the Iranians who persecute Christians.
Right.
No, those things aren't connected at all. We have Americans who believe, because of an interpretation of Scripture, certain things about Israel, for example, right? That's not because they believe, that's not because they believe rights come from God. That's because they believe something that was written compels them to do that.
Right.
And that's the same thing with the Iranians. It has nothing to do with the ultimate source of right.
No, exactly. They're using
ridiculous.
That. Yeah, they're using it for their religious laws for control. Joe, hang on the line. Got to take a hard break here. It's a fascinating conversation. Where do we go from here? We'll do that when we come back for the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. America's safe space for common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
We do not want to shut down the government because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something, Mr. President.
Let me say North Dakota.
This is the most unfortunate thing. We came in here in good faith.
Sure,
and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy. It's called transparency.
I know. It's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts.
I love it. So Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, this was, I believe, I don't think it was this negotiation round. I think it was the last one, but just so angry at Donald Trump holding his ground, saying, yeah, we're not going to shut down. Oh, if you shut it down the government, it's on you. It's not on us. And they're desperately trying to tie this into Donald Trump. Is the Donald Trump shutdown by just saying we're going to continue on spending for 7 weeks until we finish the appropriations process, which were 7 or 8 bills passed. We need a couple of more, which again is 25% of the federal budget. It's not huge, but at the same time, it's enough to shut down the government, and Democrats wanting to have their way. Can we avoid all of this ridiculousness, and what's the future of this nation? We are hanging out. Great conversation with Joe Wolverton. He is a constitutional law scholar at the John Birch Society. Joe, I'm tired of these budgetary debates, but is there a way that, as we talk about getting Constitution back to getting the law, getting the government back to the way it needs to be, is there a way to start bringing this back down to, I don't know, the state level? I have been so encouraged with the fact that I've heard the term federalism more than I've heard in a very long time, allowing states to make their own decision, allowing states to figure out their own programs, and getting the federal government out of it altogether. Can we really drive that message home?
I think we must do it, and it is the only way to assure that going forward, we live in a society where the laws match the desire of the people who live under them. We cannot expect a country as vast as the United States that for 350 million people roughly, that all of these people agree on one set of laws. In fact, at the time of the writing of the Constitution, the Founding Fathers expressed that regularly. They called it the great advantage of the American system was that we did not consolidate this giant country. And at the time, imagine, we're talking about the 13 original states, and they're saying, what a great advantage to us that we didn't consolidate all our laws into one lump of laws, but we allowed these states to be laboratories of liberty. And that's what we need. And if you find yourself unable to influence the laws in your state, then you do what the Founding Fathers did and you vote with your feet, right?
That's right.
When the Pilgrims found that they were not allowed to practice their religion in England, they went to Holland. When England placed pressure on Holland to send out the dissidents, they went to America, right? The same thing down for Jamestown and when Jamestown became oppressive, well, we move out. So the only way we have of restoring a peaceful society is for us to recognize, and this is historically and constitutionally sound, that the states, they're the ones that formed the federal government to be an agent, to be an employee of the state. And if the employee, like anybody with a job, if the employee goes beyond the authority granted to him in his job description, then it is the right and it is the duty of the employer to say, you're fired, or to say, hey, let's talk about your job performance, see if you can get back on the right track. So here we are. The states, as the employer, have the opportunity, and Madison said the obligation, the duty, to force the federal beast back inside the constitutional cage.
Yep.
And we have to do it. And the way, at the John Birch Society, I wrote a book about this a few years ago, and the John Birch Society took it as one of its principal missions, which I dubbed it Make America States Again, piggybacking off President Trump. And so we have, if you go to jbs.org/states, you can find any number of resources to help you not only understand what federalism is, understand the history of the Constitution and the relationship between the states and the federal government, but also resources how to get involved on a state level, because I think many of us realize that we don't have the clout or the money to influence D.C., but what maybe you don't realize is you do have influence at your state level, and you need to start exercising it now.
That's right. And states have to do it. They have to become more financially independent away from the government.
That's
they
right.
have to get, you're right, they have to start flexing their power again, because we have to get back to that. I would love to see the states start telling the federal government what to do again, which right now we are in no position to make happen. But we can be if we continue to work at this. Joe, I love it, man. Go check it out. John Birch Society. Go see everything he's working on. Appreciate it. Keep up the fight, brother. Let's get you back on and do it again real soon.
Anytime, brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Joe Wolverton, go and check out all his great work there at the John Birch Society. Until then, back at it again for a Tuesday post-Monday celebration coming up. Until then, we'll see you back on the radio. Bye.